The distress signal reached Earth's communication arrays at precisely 1432 Universal Standard Time. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the diplomatic quarters of the orbital station, reviewing trade agreements when the priority alert flashed across her screen. The message was simple, desperate, and addressed to the Terran Federation's Medical Corps. This is the Zelathi colonial fleet. Our home system faces extinction. A plague spreads through our worlds. Our medical knowledge cannot stop it. We request immediate humanitarian aid. Please send doctors, medicine, anything you can spare. Coordinates attached. Time is running out. Chen frowned as she read the transmission again. The Zelathi were a proud species, known throughout the galaxy for their advanced biotechnology and healing arts. For them to ask for help meant their situation was truly desperate. She immediately forwarded the message to the Medical Emergency Response Division and the Diplomatic Corps. 3 hours later, Admiral Sarah Hassan received an urgent summons to the Federation Council chambers. As she entered the circular room with its towering holographic displays, she found the atmosphere tense. Counselor Martinez gestured toward the central projection showing the Zelathi star system. "Admiral, we have a problem," Martinez began. "Our medical teams cannot reach the Zelathi systems in time. The plague is spreading faster than our fastest medical ships can travel. Even our emergency response vessels would take 47 days to reach them." Hassan studied the tactical display. "What about using the quantum jump gates? That's where it gets complicated." Chen's voice carried a note of frustration. "The nearest gate is controlled by the hegemony. They've denied our request for passage, claim they're conducting maintenance and cannot risk contamination." The Admiral's jaw tightened. The hegemony had been growing increasingly hostile toward human expansion. Their refusal was clearly political, not practical. "What's our alternative?" "The military corridor," Martinez replied grimly. "Your fleet could reach them in 18 days using the wartime jump routes, but that means sending warships instead of medical vessels." Hassan considered this carefully. The Zelathi had specifically requested medical aid, not military intervention. Arriving with a battle fleet could be interpreted as an act of aggression. Yet it might be their only hope of delivering help in time. "What does intelligence say about the situation?" Hassan asked. Commander Torres stepped forward, activating a detailed scan of the Zelathi home system. "The reports are disturbing, Admiral. 3 of their 7 worlds have gone completely silent. The remaining 4 show massive population drops. Based on the transmission patterns, we estimate they're losing millions daily." The room fell silent. Hassan had seen war, had witnessed the horrors of battle, but this was different. This was an entire species facing extinction, and politics stood in the way of saving them. "Admiral," Chen said quietly, "there's something else. Our xenobiologists have analyzed the transmission data. This plague, it's not natural. The genetic markers suggest artificial modification. Someone created this weapon." Hassan's blood ran cold. "Are you saying this is biological warfare?" "It appears so. And if someone is testing bioweapons on the Zelathi, Earth could be next. Their biology is similar enough to ours that anything that affects them could potentially affect humans." The Admiral looked around the room at the worried faces of the council members. The decision was becoming clearer, though no less difficult. They weren't just responding to a humanitarian crisis anymore. This was a potential threat to all organic life in the galaxy. "How many ships do you need?" Martinez asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "For a mission like this, the entire Third Fleet. If we're going into potentially hostile space to deliver aid, we need to be prepared for anything. That means 12 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, 4 medical ships, and the flagship Indomitable." Chen winced. "That's quite a show of force for a medical mission." "It's what's necessary to ensure the mission succeeds," Hassan replied firmly. "We can't help the Zelathi if our ships are destroyed before we reach them." The debate continued for another hour, but the outcome was inevitable. Every minute they delayed meant more Zelathi deaths. Finally, Martinez called for a vote. The resolution passed unanimously. Humanity would send its warships to deliver medical aid. As Hassan prepared to leave, Chen caught her arm. "Admiral, be careful out there. If this plague is a weapon, whoever created it won't want witnesses to their test. You might be flying into a trap." "Then we'd better make sure we're ready for one," Hassan replied grimly. Within 6 hours, the Third Fleet was assembled and ready for departure. The medical ships carried the most advanced healing technology humanity possessed, along with teams of doctors and scientists. But it was the warships that dominated the formation, their hulls bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Hassan stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the fleet prepared to jump. Lieutenant Commander Park reported from the navigation station. "All ships report ready, Admiral. Jump coordinates locked in." "Very well. All ships, this is Admiral Hassan. We're heading into unknown territory to save an entire species. Whatever we find there, remember that millions of lives depend on our success. Fleet, prepare for quantum jump." The stars stretched and twisted as the fleet entered hyperspace. Behind them, Earth grew smaller until it vanished entirely. Ahead lay the Zalathi system, and whatever dangers awaited them there. As the Indomitable settled into its jump trajectory, Hassan reviewed the mission parameters one more time. They were supposed to be delivering medical aid, but something told her they would need every weapon they carried before this mission was over. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but humanity had never backed down from a fight, especially when innocent lives hung in the balance. The Third Fleet raced through hyperspace, carrying hope and firepower in equal measure toward a dying star system. Whatever had created this plague would soon learn that humanity protected its friends with the same ferocity it fought its enemies. The Zalathi had asked for doctors, but sometimes the best medicine was delivered at the end of a plasma cannon. 18 days later, the Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zalathi system. What they found made even seasoned veterans gasp in horror. 3 worlds hung lifeless in the void, their surfaces dark and cold. The remaining 4 planets showed only scattered lights, where once great cities had blazed. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. "Admiral, I'm reading massive debris fields around the dead worlds. These look like ship graveyards." Admiral Hassan studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Thousands of wrecked vessels drifted in orbital patterns around each silent planet. Some were clearly Zalathi designs, but others were unfamiliar. "Commander Torres, are you getting this?" "Yes, ma'am. These aren't just civilian evacuation ships. I'm seeing military vessels, including several designs I don't recognize. Someone fought a major battle here, and recently." The communication officer suddenly straightened at her station. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the 4th planet. Audio only, very weak signal." "Put it through." A voice crackling with static filled the bridge. It was clearly Zalathi, but the universal translator struggled with the weak signal. "Human ships. You came. Thought we were alone. The Plague Lords still here. They wait in the outer system. Do not approach directly. We have survivors in the underground cities of Zelath Prime." The signal cut to static. Hassan felt a chill run down her spine. Plague Lords. That was a name from the darkest corners of galactic history, whispered stories of a race that spread death across the stars. "Admiral," Torres called out urgently. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts in the asteroid belt. Configuration unknown, but they're big, and they're moving toward us." Hassan's mind raced. The Zalathi had warned them, but it might already be too late. "All ships, red alert, battle stations, medical ships to the rear of the formation, destroyers, establish a screening pattern." The bridge erupted into controlled activity as the crew prepared for combat. Hassan opened a channel to the fleet. "All captains, this is Admiral Hassan. We have confirmed hostile presence in the system. Our mission remains unchanged. We will deliver medical aid to the Zalathi survivors, but will fight our way there if necessary. 20 minutes later, the enemy revealed themselves. Massive, organic-looking vessels emerged from the asteroid field like diseased whales rising from a dark ocean. Their hulls were covered in what looked like infected tissue, pulsing with sickly light. Each ship was easily twice the size of a human heavy cruiser. 12 contacts, Admiral, Torres reported. Unknown design, but sensors indicate massive energy signatures. They're definitely not Zalathi. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm from the destroyer Vigilant. Admiral, those ships, they're broadcasting something. Not a communication, but some kind of biological transmission. Our medical scanners are going crazy. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the mission's chief medical officer, had been monitoring from the flagship's medical bay. Her voice came through the intercom with barely controlled panic. Admiral, those ships are spreading the plague. They're transmitting it somehow, weaponizing it. That's how they infected entire worlds so quickly. Hassan's blood went cold. The enemy wasn't just using bioweapons, they were living bioweapons. All ships, seal environmental systems, medical teams, begin immediate plague protocols. We cannot let that contamination reach our ships. The lead Plague Lord vessel suddenly accelerated, moving with impossible grace for something so massive. It launched what looked like spores toward the human fleet. Hassan watched in fascination and horror as the organic projectiles tracked toward their ships like living missiles. Defensive fire, all ships. Target those spores before they reach us. The Third Fleet's weapons blazed to life. Plasma beams and missile volleys reached out across space, detonating the incoming biological warheads in bursts of green flame. But more spores were already launching from the other enemy vessels. Direct hit on the Courageous, reported the tactical officer. Captain Williams reports minor contamination on decks 7 and 8, but their medical teams are responding. Hassan gritted her teeth. They were fighting an enemy that could kill with a touch, but they had a job to do. All ships, maintain formation. We're going through them, not around them. Target the largest vessel and prepare for a concentrated assault. The human fleet surged forward, weapons firing continuously. The Plague Lords responded with more than just spores. Strange energy weapons that looked like streams of corrupted light lashed out at the human ships. Where they struck, hull plating began to decay and corrode. Hull breach on deck 12, reported damage control. The metal is literally rotting away. But humanity had advantages the Plague Lords hadn't expected. Human weapons were designed for clean, efficient destruction, and they proved devastatingly effective against the organic enemy ships. Plasma beams burned through diseased hull tissue, and nuclear missiles detonated in spectacular fireballs that consumed entire sections of the enemy vessels. The battle raged for 3 hours. The destroyer Defiant was lost when a massive spore cloud overwhelmed its defenses, but not before its crew activated the self-destruct, preventing the plague from spreading to other ships. 2 heavy cruisers suffered significant damage, but the human formation held. Finally, the tide turned. Captain Martinez aboard the Thunderbolt scored a direct hit on the lead Plague Lord's core with a full spread of antimatter torpedoes. The massive vessel simply came apart, its organic structure unable to contain the destructive energy. The remaining Plague Lords began to retreat, but Hassan wasn't about to let them escape to threaten other worlds. All ships, pursue and destroy. We cannot let these things leave the system. The human fleet gave chase, their weapons systematically destroying the fleeing bioships. Within another hour, the last Plague Lord vessel exploded in a brilliant green fireball. The immediate threat was eliminated, but Hassan knew this was just the beginning. Medical ships proceed to Zeleth Prime, she ordered. The rest of the fleet will establish orbital security. Dr. Chen, prepare your teams. We have survivors to save. As the fleet moved toward the 4th planet, Hassan reflected on what they had just witnessed. The Plague Lords were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. They didn't conquer worlds, they consumed them. And if they had been testing their bioweapons here, other star systems might already be under attack. The mission to deliver medical aid had become something much larger. They had stumbled upon a threat to all organic life in the galaxy. The Zalathi had asked for doctors, and humanity had sent warships instead. Now Hassan understood that sometimes the best medicine was the complete destruction of the disease itself. The Third Fleet moved into orbit around Zeleth Prime, ready to begin the real work of saving whatever remained of Zalathi civilization. The underground cities of Zeleth Prime were a maze of tunnels and chambers carved deep into the planet's crust. As Dr. Elizabeth Chen led her medical teams through the dimly lit passages, she marveled at the engineering that had allowed millions of Zalathi to survive while their surface world died above them. Prime healer Zaxith met them at the Central Medical Facility, his normally proud bearing broken by weeks of desperate struggle. The Zalathi resembled tall, graceful humanoids with iridescent skin that normally shimmered with health. Now, Zaxith's skin was dull and cracked, showing the stress of leading his people through their darkest hour. "Dr. Chen," he said in accented but clear standard, "we had given up hope. When your warships arrived and destroyed the Plague Lords, many thought we were hallucinating from grief." Chen set down her medical kit and immediately began scanning the Zalathi leader with her instruments. "We're here to help, Prime Healer, but I need you to tell me everything about this plague, how it started, how it spreads, what symptoms you've observed." As Zaxith spoke, Chen's team spread throughout the medical facility, setting up advanced human medical equipment alongside the elegant Zalathi healing chambers. The story that emerged was horrifying in its simplicity. "They came 3 months ago," Zaxith explained. "At first, we thought they were refugees seeking aid. Their ships were damaged, and they requested permission to land for repairs. We are a peaceful people, Doctor. We could not refuse help to those in need." Chen nodded grimly. The Plague Lords had used the Zalathi's own compassion against them. "What happened when they landed?" "Nothing at first. They seemed grateful, kept to themselves while making repairs. But then our people in the coastal cities began falling ill. A respiratory infection, we thought. Our healers tried traditional treatments, but nothing worked. The disease spread faster than we could track it." Dr. Sarah Kim, Chen's chief virologist, looked up from her analysis equipment. "Doctor, you need to see this. The pathogen is unlike anything in our databases. It's not quite a virus, not quite a bacteria. It's something in between, and it's specifically designed to target respiratory and nervous systems." Chen studied the readings with growing alarm. The plague was a masterwork of biological engineering, designed to be highly contagious while remaining dormant long enough to spread undetected. Worse, it seemed to adapt to whatever treatments were used against it. "Prime Healer," Chen said carefully, "how many survivors are there across all your worlds?" Zaxith's shoulders sagged. "Here in the underground cities, perhaps 2 million. Scattered survivors on the other inhabited worlds, maybe another million. From a population of nearly 8 billion. The numbers hit Chen like a physical blow. An entire civilization had been nearly wiped out in 3 months. But something didn't add up. If the Plague Lords created this bioweapon, why did they stay in the system? Why not spread it to other worlds? "Because this was just a test," came a new voice from behind them. Admiral Hassan had arrived with a security detail, having left Captain Rodriguez in command of the fleet. "We intercepted partial communications from the destroyed Plague Lord vessels. They were gathering data on how effective their weapon was." Dr. Kim's face went pale. "Admiral, if this was a test, then they were planning to use it elsewhere. The genetic structure suggests it could be modified to affect other species, including humans." Hassan nodded grimly. That's what our xenobiologists concluded as well. Dr. Chen, can you cure it? Chen looked at her readings again, running calculations in her head. Maybe. The pathogen is sophisticated, but it has weaknesses. Human immune systems are more aggressive than Zalathi ones. Our genetic diversity gives us options they don't have. I think we can develop a treatment, but it will take time. How much time? For the Zalathi? Several weeks to develop a proper cure? For humans? I'd need to study our immune response first, but we might be naturally resistant. Zaxith had been listening intently. Doctor, there is something else you should know. The Plague Lords, before they were destroyed, they transmitted data to somewhere else in the galaxy. A burst transmission we could not decode. Hassan's jaw tightened. They reported their results to their masters. Other worlds are already in danger. Over the next 72 hours, Chen's medical teams worked around the clock. They combined human medical technology with Zalathi biological knowledge, creating hybrid treatments that neither species could have developed alone. The underground cities became a massive laboratory where two civilizations fought together against extinction. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kim realized that human stem cells could be modified to produce antibodies specifically designed to target the plague pathogen. It was risky, requiring volunteers from both species, but the potential payoff was enormous. We'll need to test it first on volunteer patients, Chen explained to Zaxith. The treatment involves introducing modified human immune cells into Zalathi subjects. It could cure the plague, or it could kill them. Zaxith didn't hesitate. Doctor, we are already dying. I volunteer to be your first test subject. The treatment took 18 hours to show results. Chen watched the monitors anxiously as Zaxith's vital signs fluctuated wildly. The modified human antibodies were waging war against the plague pathogen inside his body, and for a while, it wasn't clear who would win. Then, slowly, his breathing improved. The diseased tissue in his lungs began to heal. His iridescent skin started to regain its healthy shimmer. By the end of the day, Zaxith was completely cured. It works, Chen announced to the assembled medical teams. We can save them. The mass treatment began immediately. Human medical ships worked alongside Zalathi healers to administer the cure to millions of survivors across the system. It was the largest medical operation in galactic history, and it was working. But Admiral Hassan was already planning for what came next. The Plague Lords had allies somewhere in the galaxy, and they now knew their bioweapon was effective. Earth needed to be warned, and other worlds needed protection. Prime Healer, Hassan said as Zaxith recovered from his treatment. We need to know everything you learned about the Plague Lords. Ship designs, technology, anything that might help us track down their base of operations. Zaxith's eyes hardened. Despite his people's peaceful nature, he understood what was at stake. Admiral, my people owe humanity a debt that can never be repaid. We will share everything we know, and we will help you fight these monsters. 2 weeks later, as the last Zalathi survivors received their cure, Admiral Hassan prepared to depart the system. The Third Fleet had delivered medical aid as requested, but they were returning home with something far more valuable, knowledge of a new threat to galactic civilization, and an alliance with a grateful species that would prove crucial in the battles to come. The medical mission was complete, but the war against the Plague Lords was just beginning. Humanity had sent warships to deliver medicine, and in doing so, had uncovered a conspiracy that threatened all organic life. Now those same warships would carry their warning to the galaxy, backed by the combined knowledge of two species determined to ensure that no other world would suffer as Zelath had suffered. The Zalathi had asked for medical aid, and humanity had delivered it in the most human way possible, with compassion backed by overwhelming firepower and the absolute determination that no enemy would be allowed to threaten the innocent while humans drew breath.